presentation of the Fathers of the Year Awards, let's welcome the President of CBC, Mr. Michael Jordan.
This morning, Sean and I were corresponding back and forth, and he had 405 individuals coming. About a week ago, we had 305, and today we have probably 450 here in the room. And we try to get to all of our coaches and everything that's going on and try to make sure that they don't have anything planned this evening. I know as fathers and as sons, you've got a lot of things going on, an incredible amount of activity in our lives. So it's you ought to be congratulated that you take the time out to be here as fathers, as sons, for an occasion like this. Every year we try to take from the senior class some fathers who are very deserving of Fathers of the Year. You can tell by the young men behind me that it was not a very easy decision to make and to call it down to one or two individuals. So each one of these individuals, as seniors, will introduce their father, and we'd ask that the father would come forward and accept a plaque from your son and our congratulations, pictures, and then if you would stay, please, for a group picture as well. So since we have so many of these, I'm going to call the gentlemen up, the kids up, and ask them in the order that I have here to talk. So Sam, you're up first.
Hello, my name is Sam Majak, and my father's name is Eddie Majak. My father grew up in a small town in Erie, Pennsylvania, and attended the University of Pittsburgh College. After college, he became a successful businessman, but more importantly, a successful husband and father. He's a proud father of 7 and has been happily married for over 20 years. When most people think of my father, they think of a successful businessman, a sports enthusiast, or someone who really appreciates the outdoors. However, when I think of my father, I think of someone I can count on to talk to, someone who can cheer on the big Panthers basketball team with, and for most of all, someone who I know will always be there for me. He has worked so hard to accomplish so much in the short time he's been on this earth. He truly does deserve Father of the Year. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Justin Lewis. Throughout my life, my father, Jeff Lewis, over there, has always been there for me. Whether it was helping me with my homework or teaching me how to lift weights, he always tried to do his best to help me in any way he can. Up until my 8th grade, my father coached every team I was on. I thought he would stop coaching whenever I went to high school. I was wrong. He was one of the coaches of the junior cadets 7th and 8th grade football team and is still the president of their organization. He coached athletes such as Troy Bryant, Lamar Anderson, and our SLC president, Tyler England. His dedication to coaching and helping young men achieve their goals is truly remarkable. He is the most self-sacrificing person I've ever met. I am so blessed to have him as my father. I've always looked up to him, and I can only hope one day I grow up to be half the man he is. Thank you.
My name is As a son, I'm very proud of this award. Naturally, as my father, I love him for always being there for me in my life. And I want him to thank him for that and many more. And I want to congratulate him for the nomination for this award. He's a great guy. He's always been there for me. And he's done a lot to keep my family happy. And
Hello, how's everybody doing tonight? I'm Michael Kilker. My dad's also Michael Kilker. We have the same name. My dad has had the opportunity to be a student, an alum, a board member, and a parent at CBC. As I was growing up, my dad gave me the impression that CBC was the only all-boys high school in the St. Louis area. When I got to 8th grade, my dad told me I could go to any high school I wanted, but he would only pay for CBC. That made it an easy choice. My dad has been my coach, my biggest supporter, and a true friend throughout my life. And that's something that I will always be grateful for. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Paul Saracino. My father is a 1984 graduate of the best high school in the world, CBC. Although he may have slept through most of his classes, like many of us do today, he learned a few core principles of the Lasallian education, and he's carried on these principles throughout his entire life. Earlier this year, he got recognized by CBC as he was inducted into the Alumni Hall of Fame. In his 1984 senior yearbook, he wrote the quote, "To love my family as they've loved me," and I don't think he could have fulfilled his dreams any better. He loved his family more than he could have ever imagined. Although me, my brothers, and my sister are very big complainers and pain in you-know-where, he always never fails to make us happy. Congratulations. Love you, Pop.
My name's Craig Suntrup, and my dad is also Craig Suntrup. My dad is Father of the Year because of the great man he is. Dad's always been a leader, never a follower. He was the captain of his football team his senior year. He's now on the board of CBC. He continues to give back to CBC through donations and his position on the board. These are just a few reasons why I believe he's Father of the Year.
passionate, and giving. My dad has been supportive of me in everything I can do. All the way from playing T-ball to becoming an Eagle Scout, my dad has been there every step of the way. Even though he's had to juggle many different commitments, he's always made me a priority. This is shown by his countless hours planning or attending meetings as a Boy Scout leader, preparing for our annual hunting trips in Illinois, chaperoning our jazz band competitions 3 years in a row, while working diligently at his career. Not only is my dad a fantastic father to me and my family, he is also a great contributor to the CBC community. His generous donations to STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, have helped improve our science department's resources and curriculum to help teach students the best way possible. His passion for STEM comes from a successful career in aeronautical engineering and his belief that a strong education rooted in science and math will likely be key for many future cadets' careers. I am privileged to have such a strong role model as a father. He is the most selfless, hardworking, and generous person that I know. Thank you for being such a fantastic father.
Hello, I'm Wesley Jr. My dad is Wesley Sr. While our names are similar, we have the same good looks, and our height, or lack thereof, are obvious qualities we share. I also have been fortunate to share in a greater legacy with him. My dad is also a cadet graduating in 78. He is the best person I know, so it is only natural that I wanted to go to CBC and follow in his footsteps. My dad supported me through thick and thin, especially when I'm playing hockey. When I'm playing hockey, when he's not at the games, you can tell the difference when he's not yelling through the glass. So tonight, I'm honored to present this award to my fellow cadet and my dad. Thank you.
Certainly, congratulations to the Fathers of the Year. Each one of you seniors did an exceptional job. I'm very proud of you. Did very well. The next part of our program is our guest speaker. He's a good friend of one of our graduates, Martin Kilcoyne, who's probably another personality you hear about from the standpoint of radio and TV. Randy is from, as you see in the program, 101 ESPN Radio. He's a lifelong St. Louis individual. Went to Parkway North, and then he went on to graduate from Lindenwood. His two children. It's kind of interesting to note that his daughter, who's the youngest of the two, is considering a couple of places to go to school, and one of them just happens to be the University of Kentucky. Now, that's my home state, by the way. What I want to do is ask you a question. How do you pronounce the capital of Kentucky? Louisville or Louisville? Louisville. Frankfurt. But it is Louisville, like you got marbles in your mouth or whatever. But Frankfurt. Hopefully, I know she's pursuing a couple other universities. Good luck, Randy, as she's pursuing it. Randy's going to talk to you a little bit about, obviously, the father-son relationship, his own. A little bit about sports. And he's going to do a little Q&A as well here. So if you get your questions ready, Randy will definitely be here to answer them. Randy.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan, and I echo my congratulations for all the Fathers of the Year and Sons of the Year. You know what's interesting is I think dads will be open about this with their sons. I think for our generation, we, as kids, with our fathers, we had great relationships. We didn't hug as much. I don't think that we said I love you as much with our fathers. They just came from a different generation. And I can tell that a lot of us, and the people that were up here with their sons, they probably, like me, decided, you know what, when I have a son, it's going to be different. And I'm going to tell him every day that I love him, and I'm going to communicate with him, and I'm going to hug him. And it's great to see that sort of love and compassion shown between fathers and sons, and it's great to see such a great group here tonight. Thanks to Mr. Jordan for the introduction, Reverend Durham, great job on the invocation, thank you very much. Mr. Willis, thank you. It's always intimidating when you're a radio guy and the first voice you hear at a banquet is better than yours. So, Mr. Willis, if you have a desire for a future in radio, you could definitely do it. As you know, and we'll talk about this tonight, we don't have a pro football team in town anymore. But it's not all bad. Because I used to have to go on the radio on Mondays after the Rams played. And I can tell you, that was not the best job in the world. One of the worst jobs in the world was the post-game show. Can you imagine doing post-game for Rams football for the last dozen years? My friend Kevin Wheeler at 101 ESPN had to do that, and it was rugged. Pre-game was a whole lot easier than having to react and having to have people react to what we went through. So from that standpoint, we're still going to be football fans. We're still going to cover football at 101 ESPN. It's just we get to cover good football now. One thing about Hollywood, it'll be interesting to see in that land where they have plastic surgery and a lot of fake stuff. I wonder if Stan Kroenke's hair will get any better. It's like a squirrel on top of his head. It's remarkable that he's been able to go through life in Missouri and not be noticed as much for that. Out in LA, that'll be an interesting thing. Great story, by the way, and some of us as fathers are getting up there. Senior citizen dad tells the son, hey, I'm going to go out, I got to do some running around. I'll be back in a couple hours. Can you just hold down the fort here? Son says, no problem. Son calls him on the cell phone in the car as the father is driving around and says, hey, Dad, be careful. I just saw on the news that there's a madman driving around. He's driving the wrong way on 270. The father says, I know there is, but it's not just one. There's hundreds of them. Oh, you got home okay. Hey, I want to congratulate you, as Mr. Jordan told you. I am a Parkway North grad, but I also have a great affinity for our town, and obviously in our town you're asked what high school you go to. And I had the great good fortune for 15 years of doing high school football and basketball and hockey games on charter, and I can't tell you how many times we had CBC games. And my friends that attended CBC, whether it's Martin Kilcoyne or Mike Shannon or Daryl Duran, they always talk about their pride in this institution. And you can tell, even from an outsider's perspective, that the motto, men for tomorrow, brothers for life, is true. And we see it tonight with all of the CBC grads that have returned for this father-son banquet and have their sons here and maintain those relationships that they built up at CBC for the rest of their life. I hope that you sons recognize, and I think you do see it here tonight, but if you don't, eventually you will, what that means. In the future, you're going to be the ones sticking together. You're the ones that are going to be on the board here at CBC. You're going to be the ones that are sending your sons to CBC, and it really is a brothers for life situation, and that's something from an outsider's point of view that a lot of us are really jealous of, and we're glad that here in our community we have something that a brotherhood that does stick together. As I mentioned, when I'm around people like Mike Shannon, and Mike Shannon has done so much for your institution with his charitable endeavors and mentioning CBC. Martin Kilcoyne, somebody at our table was mentioning the jabs that he'll always take when you guys beat a DeSmet or a SLU, and it's great to hear about you in the media. And then Daryl Duran, who just was dropped as the head coach of the St. Louis Ambush, one of the great soccer players in our region's history, and obviously speaks so highly of this institution. From my perspective, as a sports guy on the radio, congratulations to all your teams. I had a chance to get out to a couple of your football games. I know how good you were. I know how disappointing the finish was, but I know how great you were. I know your soccer coach, Terry Mickler. We've had him in studio at 101 ESPN a couple of times, and we know of your amazing National High School Player of the Year in AJ Palazzolo, and the great future that he has, and it's always great to have a classmate that's so great. I always keep an eye on your basketball team, number 4 in the area, and it was great to see. We talk about sports on my station all the time, but I try to do a lot in the community. And one of my good friends is Demetrius Johnson with the Demetrius Johnson Charitable Foundation. And before Thanksgiving every year, DJ has a meal giveaway, a turkey giveaway, for underprivileged people in the St. Louis area, the projects in St. Louis. And I get out there to Demetrius Johnson's site where everything is taking place, and there's Coach Tatum and the basketball team, ready to do great things for the community. So it's beyond what happens on the court and on the field and on the ice. What you do for our community is wonderful. And I don't want to leave out your 24-1 hockey team. I know you're going to win another title this year, because you win it every year. And to all of you athletes in the audience and all you coaches, congratulations. And obviously, to all of the fathers of those athletes, congratulations to you. One of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is how sports is a bonding experience. And that's one of the things that's really disappointing about the Rams leaving. When I was a kid, we had the now Arizona Cardinals in town. And some of my favorite memories from childhood were going to Busch Stadium 2 with my dad and watching games. And I remember so vividly, and it was a different world. The Cardinals were as bad as the Rams were, but it was a different world. And my dad would make food at home that we would take into Busch Stadium. And he would make hot dogs, and then he would stick a brick in the oven at about 400 degrees for an hour. We put it in a cooler and then put the hot dogs on top of that brick and literally carry a brick into a National Football League game. And I can still see to this day, you know, it's a foil wrapped brick with the hot dogs wrapped in foil, and it's unbelievable that they allowed us to do that in the NFL. There's no chance of that happening today. But I remember so vividly as we would leave disappointed at the end of another game. For you kids, Cardinals were known as the cardiac Cardinals. And in the 3 really good years they had here, they would always be behind in the 4th quarter, and they would always come back and win. The rest of the time, they would be ahead in the 4th quarter. They were the ones that coined the term snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. And we would stick around until the bitter end, until the Cowboy kicker, the Steeler kicker, the Redskin kicker would kick that field goal in the last minute, and we would lose the game. But despite the fact that they lost all the time, I had a great time. And so when the Rams moved to St. Louis in 1995, I had a son who was 9 months old, and I applied for PSLs, and I said, you know what, I want to do the exact same thing. I want to have those sorts of memories with my kid that I had with my dad. And we were able to do that. And early on in the Rams' existence here, we would tailgate every single time. And we were tailgating before a preseason game. It was August, it was about 100 degrees, and we're out tailgating with my son who had just turned a year old, and my dad who was in his 60s at that time. And I hadn't thought of it. Obviously, my son was too young to think about it. He said, this is as good as it gets. Here I've got my son and my grandson. We've got 3 generations tailgating, enjoying great food, and heading on into a football game, an NFL game. And it really was as good as it gets. And that's one of the troubling aspects to me about the team leaving, is that we aren't going to be able to enjoy that bonding experience that a lot of us as fathers and a lot of you as sons got to enjoy. After the Rams won the Super Bowl, and I know you guys don't remember, the Rams did win a Super Bowl here in St. Louis in 1999. They played the opening Monday night game. If you're a fan now, you understand that the opener of the NFL season is a Thursday night game that the Super Bowl champion hosts. It used to be that the Super Bowl champion would host a Monday night. And in their first years here, their first year in 1995, the Rams went 7-9, then 6-10, then 5-11, then 4-12. It was getting bad. And then they pop up and win the Super Bowl, go 13-3 in 1999, and win the Super Bowl. And my son at that time is 6 years old. And I said to my wife, before the opener, which was right after Labor Day weekend, I said, Patrick's coming to the football game with me. And she said, no, he's not. And I said, it's a Monday night game where they're going to drop the Super Bowl banner in St. Louis. You think he's not going? She said, no, he can't go. He's got school the next day. I said, he's got school 200 days a year. This might happen only one time. And I thought, boy, this is a good team. They're going to be good for a long time. Little did I know that that was one of the most valuable things that I could ever have done, because now he's 21 and he still remembers that night. And with what we still have here, we as fathers and sons, you should expect this, still have to take advantage of those experiences. If another thing my dad did was take me out of school for a Cardinal Day game every year. It became a tradition. Every year I would get out of school early and we'd head downtown for a ball game. And the Blues are good, and sometime the Blues are going to win a Stanley Cup. Don't miss out on that experience that is there for you and your kids. I have 2 tickets that I use with my daughter on weekend nights, and then for the playoffs I get an extra ticket, because I would never be able to live with myself if the Blues would win a Stanley Cup and I didn't have both of my kids there with me when they won it. Those are experiences that we'll never be able to recreate. So when we get the opportunity, we need to take advantage of them, because they are awesome and they are because of sports. It's sad that the emotion that I'm talking about is something that completely escaped our owner, Mr. Kroenke. And by the way, I make an effort, and you can throw something at me if I call him Stan. I was so galled by the fact that he played the I'm named after Stan Musial card in the release when the Rams left town. Give me a break. Stan Musial was one of the more treasured, he was the most treasured resident that our community ever had. For a guy like Kroenke to play that card at that time is almost criminal in this town. And he's trying to say, okay, I understand this is an emotional decision. Well, if you understand that it's emotional, Mr. Kroenke, why didn't you ever talk to us? Why did you, after you purchased the team in 2010, only talk to the media one time? And we are, as the media, a conduit to the fans. Why did you only speak to your fans one time? And that was when you hired Jeff Fisher. I'm a season ticket holder. Did I ever get an email thanking me for my support of the team from Mr. Kroenke? No. I'm a media member. I'm on the flagship station of the football team. Did I ever hear from Mr. Kroenke? No. He had an open invitation. Anytime he ever wanted, he could have written the questions, and we would have interviewed him, and he never took advantage of it because he didn't want to. He didn't understand that you need to treat people right. There's a great phrase that the basketball coach at St. Louis University, Jim Cruz, uses. He says, do the next right thing. And even at my age, I listen to coaches and the things that they say, and I say, you know what, that makes sense. Yeah, just do the next right thing. And in any business, if you just do the right thing, the next right thing, people are going to be happy with you. And if you treat your business like Stan Kroenke should have treated, okay, throw something at me, should have treated the football fans here in St. Louis, you're going to be fine. Treat people like they have an emotional investment in your product. Treat people like you want to be engaged with them. Interact with them. Give effort and get in the boat with them. If you do that, doesn't matter what walk of life you're in. If you're selling cars, if you're in the restaurant industry, if you're in the radio industry, and your customers know that you're emotionally engaged and involved with them, you're going to succeed. And it's almost as if he didn't want to succeed, and that's why he shut us out. Here's what happened, in my opinion, and I think my opinion is pretty well educated. In 2007, the owner of the team that brought the team to St. Louis, Georgia Frontier, passed away of breast cancer. And that year, the Rams started the worst run of 5 years in the history of the league. As you know, you've heard the statistic before, 15 wins and 65 losses. Put that in perspective. There's two ways to do it. Number one, you were a football team that was 50 games under 500 for 5 years. They averaged a 3-13 season for 5 years. In 2007, they also made an agreement with St. Louis that $30 million in upgrades could be made to the Edward Jones Dome, and they were going to be happy with that. That was when Georgia was alive. And they completed those upgrades. If you went to the Dome much, you saw new scoreboards, you saw field level seats, you saw ribbon boards at the Dome, and when Georgia was alive and agreed to those, she was very happy with those. Plus they got, one of the Rams people told me, yeah, we had an extra $1 million laying around, so we asked if they would upgrade the locker rooms, and they did. So just had a little extra $1 million laying around. And so the stadium was up to Georgia's standards at that point. And then a couple of years later, by the way, they put in a new sound system as well right before they left. But Georgia's descendants, Chip Rosenblum and Lucia Rodriguez, couldn't afford to pay the federal estates tax and maintain the franchise. So they had to sell. And Stan Kroenke, when he took minority interest in the team when he came here, had a right of first refusal. Anybody that made an offer for the team, he had the right to match. And he had a guy that was interested, now the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Shad Khan. I am convinced that during that period, after which the Rosenblum said we have to sell the franchise and he had a right of first refusal, he saw what was happening with the lease that gave him an out after the 2014 season, actually, and went to the league and said, look, Roger Goodell, I have an out in my lease. I know you want to be back in the number 2 market, and I have $7.5 billion and can build a glamorous new stadium for you. I think that that's when what happened 2 weeks ago really got on the track and on the path. And I think at that point, the league began to clear the path for the Rams to move to LA. This is way back in 2009. Then in 2010, Shad Khan makes an offer to the team. Kroenke matches that offer, takes over the team, exercises his right of first refusal, and then after a couple of down years, he hires Jeff Fisher as his head coach. Jeff Fisher had moved the team before. He had been the head coach of the Houston Oilers when they moved to Tennessee and became the Tennessee Titans. And then in 2012, there was an arbitration hearing, and the big mistake we made in St. Louis was guaranteeing that the Edward Jones Dome would be in the top 25% of the league at the 10 and 20 year marks of the Dome's existence. Well, it wasn't. There was almost no way to get it to that level, and it's a mistake, but it's an understandable mistake. When the lease was signed in 1995, most of the stadiums in the NFL were in disrepair. When we built what was then a state-of-the-art stadium, everybody wanted a new stadium. And between the time the Dome opened in 1995 and last year, 29 other of the 32 teams either got new stadiums or dramatic upgrades to their stadium. So there was no way that we were going to be able to win an arbitration. We lost. To keep the team, St. Louis would have had to pay $700 million, a $6 million a year entity. The CBC would have had to pay $700 million to extend the lease for 10 more years. So we really had, as it turns out, no chance to keep our team. The league wanted to be in that number 2 market. They had an owner that could build in there. They wanted to get back into LA since the Rams left. And they had a guy that was out of his lease. And the deal was done 2 weeks ago. And I'll say it again. We were led along and led astray by the NFL, by them telling our governor and the leaders of the task force, Dave Peacock and Bob Litz, they said, keep doing what you're doing, keep going on. And they allowed the St. Louis area to spend $16 million for stadium design, and there was never any chance, I'm convinced, of the Rams staying in St. Louis once they couldn't pay that $700 million arbitration reward. So, we don't have a team. And that might not be a bad thing. I am of the opinion that, and by the way, I'll say this to start, if you give me a choice, I prefer to have an NFL team in town to cheer for. But I'm not so sure that that league has not reached its apex. The new collective bargaining agreement that they allowed, or they brought into focus in 2011. Doesn't allow for nearly as many practices. A coach only gets about 12 to 14 training camp practices. There's virtually no off-season program. Players can't be coached up. All you kids that have played sports know how important practice is to get better. All the coaches know how important practice is to get better. NFL players don't practice that much. And so the quality of the sport isn't as great, obviously, and everybody in this room knows about the concussion concern. And one thing that this tells me, this move of the team, is that the league is more interested in revenue and dollars than they are in the quality of their sport. It used to be a sport that it was all about the game, and now it seems to be all about the money. So we don't have them, but we have fantastic ownership in our other two pro sports franchises. And with the Cardinals and the DeWitt ownership, and I understand Bill DeWitt III was here, they're totally committed to St. Louis and to our region and to our people. This is an ownership that built Ballpark Village. They have the Cardinal Hall of Fame. If you're a fan, even if you aren't a fan, if you're a St. Louis fan and haven't been to the Cardinal Hall of Fame, you have to go. The DeWitt family actually goes out and buys memorabilia from memorabilia collectors to put in the Hall of Fame. So they really care about St. Louis and St. Louis fans. The Blues do everything they can, and that's a local ownership, to make sure that fans are happy and satisfied and reassured that they're going to keep their team here in St. Louis. So we do have great sports in town. We've got fantastic high school sports, those teams, and we've got some sensational college teams as well. A couple of things about relationships and just going about life. And if you've ever heard our show, and I've had several people, thank you very much, that have come up and said they listen. We go into the studio every day. Brad Thompson, who won a World Series with the Cardinals, and DeMarco Farr, who won a Super Bowl with the Rams, and I, we go into the studio every day with the idea that we're going to have a good time. And we hope that translates as you're driving in your car or listening wherever you are or listening on your phone. We hope that translates to you. There was a great championship basketball coach at North Carolina State named Jim Valvano, and he wound up working at ESPN and died of cancer in 1993. And a couple of months before he died, Valvano was the winner of the Arthur Ashe Award for Courage on the ESPYs. And it's one of the more famous speeches ever given. Kids, if you have never seen it, just Google Jim Valvano's speech, and you'll have an opportunity to see it. Anyway, he said something in the speech that resonated with me and still does to this day. He said, his keys to life were threefold. He said, to quote, 3 things that we should do every day. We should do this every day of our lives. Number 1 is laugh. You should laugh every day. Number 2 is think. You should spend some time in thought. And number 3 is you should have your emotions move to tears. Could be happiness or joy, but think about it. If you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. It's a heck of a day. You do that 7 days a week, and you're going to have something special. And my favorite person outside of my family in life, Jack Buck, was a frequent crier. And whether it was tears of joy or tears of sadness, he was a man. Dick Vermeil, the Super Bowl champion coach of the Rams, a frequent crier. His players would joke to him and joke about him until they realized that those were sincere tears, and he is a truly emotional person. There's nothing wrong with shedding a tear. So often we spend time, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone, worrying about yesterday. I spent a week and a half upset that the Rams left. We can't control what happened. Or we spend time worrying about tomorrow. Are we going to get another NFL team? Can't control that either. It's hard to do, but it's so important to live in the moment and control what we can control right then. What good does it do to worry about what we can't control? It doesn't do any good. Don't waste your time worrying about things that you can't control. A couple more things. Michael Josephson is a former law professor in California. He's an attorney, and he founded the nonprofit Josephson Institute of Ethics. And he said, one of the great tragedies of life is that fathers and sons can love each other deeply without ever getting to know each other. And we, in this room, have the opportunity to obviously love each other deeply, but get to know each other. And this is something that I can say as a sportscaster and somebody who got to know my father and my son through sports, know them well. Go to games together, play fantasy football together, talk about your day, stay in touch in college, kids, okay? You can laugh together, but send a text once. I know you don't answer phones. Send a text to Dad once in a while, okay? And tell him how you're doing and tell him how you're feeling. You can text about sports. My son is a San Francisco Giants fan. Anything that ever happens with the Giants, hey, what do you think of this move? What do you think of that move? Because I want to communicate with him. Hopefully, this time at CBC and events like tonight will be something that you both look back on and can talk about as a great memory. As you dads know, this is one of the 2 or 3 most important relationships in your life. From hearing the sons of the fathers of the year, I know that you sons understand that this is one of the 2 or 3 most important relationships of your life. And I'm proud to be a part of it. I thank you for asking me to be here and allowing me to speak to you tonight. Thank you. Is anybody, and it tells you where Mizzou and SLU basketball are that I didn't say a word about them. Sorry about that, but you guys are better. Does anybody have any questions? If you have a question, just raise your hand. I'll be more than happy to answer. Yes, sir?
Do you think we'll ever get an MLS team?
I think, and the question is, do I think we'll ever get an MLS team? I think there's a chance. We had on our show today the CEO of Sporting KC, and he said the league is really enthusiastic about St. Louis. They understand the historical significance of having St. Louis. A state legislator put into motion the possibility of a bill that would allow us to vote on a tax for a new stadium. So I think those wheels are in motion. The day after the Rams left, the commissioner of MLS said that helped momentum for a St. Louis MLS franchise. And when I talk about the Rams leaving, perhaps not necessarily being a bad thing, I don't think the NFL is going away, but I do think that MLS is on the ascent, and I think that we would be a great addition to the league. I think that we could handle a team. I think that all of us would love having another sports team in St. Louis, and I do think that when they expand from 24 to 28, and that'll be after the year 2020, I think there's a pretty good chance that we could have an MLS team. Anybody else? There's one back there. Yes, sir.
So as a listener to your show, would you rather wear Bill Belichick's hoodie for the rest of your life or Stan Kroenke's hair?
Oh, man. Has Belichick worn the hoodie already? That is, I am a Patriot hater. I was the biggest Broncos fan in St. Louis the other day, folks. But I don't think I could abide that hair. No, so as distasteful as it would be, I think I would have to go with the cut sleeves and the BB hoodie, unfortunately. Yes, in the back.
In your opinion, who's a bigger hack, Kroenke or Goodell?
I would say that it's Roger Goodell because he allowed it to happen. Not that there are, I was going to say many, I'll go with any redeeming qualities to Stan Kroenke. But Roger Goodell allowed this to happen, and it's business. But like I said in the talk, it's a different business, and how somebody in charge of a league where they're running promos every second break that say football is family, and they try to elicit emotion from us, and then they yank a team from us and rip the fabric of a community the way he allowed it to happen, I would say it's Goodell. I think it's unconscionable that they allowed Stan's attorney, a guy named Alan Bornstein, to write the report that he did, excoriating our community, with a lot of misinformation, by the way. And they made it public. It's one thing if you rip a community and it stays private, but it was the Rams themselves that allowed that to become public. And to me, that's all Roger Goodell's fault. The best scenario would not have been the one that gave the league the most money. But since that's all they're concerned about, that's the direction they went. My thought, before all of this happened, and like I said, this was set up 6 years ago. I always put myself in the shoes of an owner, and I was thinking league think. Back in 1960, Pete Rozelle was the commissioner of the league. He wanted every team to share national television revenue. And he got resistance from the owner of the Giants, a guy named Wellington Mara. And finally, Rozelle convinced Mara that if we share revenue, we can have parity, and franchises like Pittsburgh and St. Louis and Kansas City and Green Bay will be able to exist. And the term was league think, and Mara agreed with that. He said, okay, I own the team in the biggest market, I could make all this money, but you're right, we need to have parity, so everybody should share the television money equally. And now, rather than league think, they're only thinking about the higher revenue streams. From a league perspective, they would have been much better off if they wanted a competitive league to have 32 healthy franchises by allowing the Raiders and Chargers to move to Carson and having the Rams take the stadium plan here. And they were worried about Kroenke because he didn't want to be here. But I don't think that from an overall league standpoint, this is the best thing for the competitiveness of the league. Is it the best thing financially? For him, yes. But as far as the league being competitive, I don't think this does them any good at all. I think it hurts them, as a matter of fact. Yes, in the back.
Since Brad is out, can you do the Albert Pujols impression?
I have no Albert impression whatsoever. And Brad, my partner Brad Thompson, his wife gave birth to a baby girl on Monday morning, and so Brad's been out, and he does the best Albert Pujols impression in the world. If you've never tuned into our show, you haven't had the opportunity to really laugh. He's a very funny guy, and Brad was a big-time smart aleck as a player. You know, we didn't get to know him as a player because he was kind of under the radar, but he was the guy that would jump out from behind equipment bins and scare people. There was a Cardinal player in 2006 named Scott Spezio, and if you watch that World Series, you know about him, and subsequently we found out that he had a serious drug problem that was well known within the locker room, and while the team would take batting practice, Brad Thompson, one of the pitchers who wasn't taking BP, would grab a bottle of baby powder and spread it around on the carpet around Spezio's locker. And Spezio would come back in and say, "Who did this? Who did this?" Brad has a really vicious, cutting sense of humor. It's fun. So if you get an opportunity to listen to him, it's a lot of fun. We have time for a couple more. Yes?
Did you let that Kroenke sucks guy intentionally win the 4 o'clock fight?
Yeah, we had a guy that was just slamming Kroenke last week during the 4 o'clock fight. He was good, though. I will say this. I have never, I shouldn't say this. There's only been one time I tried to throw a 4 o'clock fight to a young man, and I thought, okay, this will be a really big kick for him. It was in person. It was actually at Rams training camp. And I tried to throw it, and I still won. No, I don't throw it to anybody. And our new producer, man, he's tough. He's trying to trick me. And I get mad at it. Sometimes when you hear DeMarco laughing, it's because he gets such a kick out of the fact that this guy's trying to trick me.
I thought DeMarco thought you let him win.
Yeah, I liked him, but no, I wasn't letting him win. All right, we got one more? Yeah. Oh, here we go, yeah.
Do you think St. Louis can get an NBA team?
Do I think St. Louis can get an NBA team? I do think that there are limitations to what we can do as a corporate community. And I don't think that we would be able to sufficiently, from a corporate perspective, support an NBA team. I don't think, like with the NFL, I don't think it matters how many tickets you sell. If you ever see highlights from Atlanta, they don't draw. And by the way, the Hawks kids used to play here in St. Louis until 1968. The St. Louis Hawks became the Atlanta Hawks. But with the everyday sports that we already have. We've got the 82 games of hockey, 41 at home, 162 games of baseball, 81 at home, and then all of the television commercial purchases that take place, radio commercial purchases that take place. I think that we would stretch our limits with an NBA team. I don't think it would be an issue of fans. I think there are enough people that would buy tickets to make it viable, but I just don't think that there are enough advertising dollars and partnership dollars in St. Louis to really make it work. I think it would hurt probably the Blues, and I don't think that the Blues who are in that building now, I don't think anybody wants that to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me. Have a great time. What's the next?
Randy, thank you for your presentation, your sharing of yourself, your ideas, and your command of the facts, and also actually looking into CBC, not only our sports program, but the fact that we are Men for Tomorrow and Brothers for Life, and talking about the community that we really have once again exhibited here. So we have a little token of appreciation for you. I hope it's the right size.
Want me to open here?
Yeah, please.
I'm a pretty small guy. Oh, this is beautiful. This is perfect. And are you guys done with Chaminade yet, basketball? Or should I wear this when I come and you guys beat Chaminade? Next weekend, okay. I will wear this to the game.
I know we have Keith. You're going to introduce somebody in a moment. Do you want to do that, or yes? You're welcome to do that. We're going to hear your voice anyway that Randy's talking about. Also, Randy, I love the heat that you bring to the discussion here. Two connections I want to make in regards to what he said. Stan Musial, you young men, as you visit Ross Hall, you see in the corner right there by the cadet store a picture of Stan, and hopefully you realize that his son Dick is a graduate of 1958 here from the old CBC, and the picture is when we played DeBerg in football. They're in the locker room standing next to Dick, and it's dated, the season was 1957, but Dick was graduated in 1958. And another story is that Bill Bidwell, you know, I'm glad that you concentrated on that other guy and not on Bill as such. Bill, when all this was going on with the Cardinals, actually had a son at CBC. And in my job as such, I go see people and talk with them and get to their wallet and ask them for some help in regards to the school, financially and all that. Well, I had this discussion with Mr. Bidwell. It was up there in the stadium club or whatever. And after he heard my spiel, he said, this is what I want to do, Michael. I want to give you X amount of dollars, and I want this to go for individual sons that are at CBC who, because of something, an illness or, God forbid, a death or something like that, they can't pay the tuition at CBC, and I want them to continue here. That's the Bill Bidwell that unfortunately a lot of people don't quite know. But that's the one I remember. And unfortunately, because of everything going on at the time, his son had to withdraw. It was in his sophomore year. There were a bunch of threats going on with the family. So he unfortunately had to go to a boarding school up east or something like that. But two connections through Randy here back to CBC. So, Keith, all yours. Let's hear that voice.
Thank you. And thank you for the compliment, Randy. For a minute, I was nervous. I thought you were going to tell me what a former media professor said to me about 25 years ago. He said, Keith, you have a face for radio. I thought you were going there, my friend.